Welcome to another episode of Humanly Plausible with your hosts, Roly and Richard from the Pink Collective.
The revolution, y'all, will not be televised. Yeah, you gotta wake up.
All right, welcome to another episode of Humanly Plausible. Today, we're back together again.
100% back together again.
It was well, actually, you did one by yourself, and then I ended up doing one by ourselves because it just worked out that way.
Yeah,
we couldn't make it, but definitely not the same.
Correct. And a lot's been going on.
Yeah,
so I'm glad that we have an opportunity to get back together and do a show. I
think it was fortunate that we had good guests. So I think that for that we actually had some good hosts filling in that were able to carry the same energy.
Yeah,
because now I'm realizing how important the character is and what we're actually doing here. Because sometimes I forget, what are we doing again?
Yeah,
or we just kind of shamelessly plug the agency. But it reminds me just how relevant I think these conversations are to folks.
Right, and it really makes me reflect even more so on the name, Humanly Plausible. I think the diversity of people that we're speaking to kind of reflects the different ways in which the human condition and the human potential makes things go from what's possible to what's actually plausible. And I think at the core of what we're trying to communicate, I think our array of guests kind of show that.
And I think that even got me thinking more of how we can potentially continue to evolve this. It doesn't have to be necessarily us.
Right.
Kind of just carrying these conversations. I think, with our networks, we can. I think it should be more about bringing people together that we find in it's almost like UFC, but this is for people having these conversations. But they're not going to physically fight.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless
and these are people that I
charge extra for that.
I mean, we could. That's the next revenue driver. But anyway,
right?
But I think it's important that these are people that may fly under the radar to the masses. However, they're making impact in their ecosystems in which they work. And I think bringing them to the forefront and getting them a platform to have these conversations is great, and it's great for us. I mean, it helps us kind of broaden.
We're also learning. We're still learning, and we're gaining insights from these folks. So I think it's cool that we get to record it and show it to people. So. Again, blessed to have you here with us and myself and that this gets to happen. So, and
we're blessed to have one of the most fantastic interns in America.
Oh yeah. So with us this summer is my 17-year-old Gavin. He's going to be a senior next year and he's interning for us. So he's behind the camera. But he's been doing a great job.
Phenomenal job.
And he's actually, improving our setup here. So now we're,
schooling us. Yeah, taking us to the next level.
Better lighting, camera setups.
Giving us the feedback that we crucially need to improve ourselves and evolve.
So he's surviving.
Amen. Yes, sir.
And as you can see, this box is also evolving. I'm trying to continually...
stay tuned for the next iteration of the box.
Yeah, so, all right. So with that, I guess it's time to... open the box.
Yeah.
I did tell you already that these are now AI generated.
Yes, we are using AI even in the questions. So these are AI generated. So why don't you just go ahead and pull one out, Brother Roly?
All right. They're a little bit scary though sometimes. Okay, I think we've covered this one before, but sort of kind of. So how can businesses create a strong internal culture that aligns with their external brand values?
Yes, we have covered that, but at the same time, it seems like it's actually something that probably requires ongoing.
Yeah, we could do this whole thing about. I mean, we could probably do Humanly Plausible just about this.
Yeah.
So again, it's how can businesses create a strong internal culture that aligns with their external brand values? All right, so we got to start breaking that down. So you can start with.
So why don't we look at it this way? Why don't we ask ourselves, what's important about internal culture? Number one.
Who cares? It just seems like it's a buzzword.
Yeah, and I think that unfortunately, that's a great point. I think there are businesses that really are like, listen, as long as we pay you, whatever we agreed to pay you,
right,
and you give the requisite of work that we asked you for. that's the amount of culture we need, you know? I mean,
Right.
that it's transactional. It's not necessarily based on the human condition. It's not necessarily based on creating an ecosystem in which people, you know, work in a certain manner with certain values. You know, it's all about the output and not necessarily how we get there.
So can the questions so just we can clarify, can an advertising agency create internal culture for you?
That's
The hard truth.
the hard truth. We can't. No,
We can't.
can't.
We can't.
No,
Okay.
we can't.
You can't.
You
It's a
know,
no. It's a solid no. We
no,
can't.
we can't.
Can we help? Can we support?
Yes.
Can we connect you to maybe what your internal culture is?
I think what we've, if we're using
Can we
us,
identify? Yeah.
we can identify and we can advocate. I think
Yeah.
those two areas are where we're able to do the most, you know, productive work. Because anything past advocating for it, you know, we don't have the power, the authority to get certain things done, even when we see it and see
Right.
the opportunities. We can advise you of it through identifying those opportunities. We can actually implore upon you and show you what the potential benefits could be, especially in context with your external brand. But implementing it,
Okay.
yeah.
So there you go. That's to be clear. We can't do that for you. There's organizations out there. I mean, again, the internal culture is developed by leadership. It's by the company's leadership and how you support that leadership and build around that leadership. But it's a very mission value driven
Yeah.
way of doing things.
Yeah.
And then ultimately that then starts to be amplified throughout an organization. So that's
Right.
internal culture.
And I think where we really help, and we want to dive a little bit deeper into our role as an advertising agency, I try to give organizations the benefit of the doubt that until maybe they go through a process like we take them through discovery and really identifying who they are, maybe they really didn't even before have a really good platform in which to construct an internal culture. Because once again, they kind of were just looking at the product or service that they were offering and the process that it takes to get there and not really feeling like there needs to be a culture that surrounds it. It just needs to be process, output.
Right. So pros and cons to having a strong internal culture. I know that's not exactly the question, but the pros and cons are, again, like if you have a strong internal culture, that means that, you know, you're mission, vision driven, which is great. Because most of the time that means that you have a team that's advocating for who you are, which is
Correct.
great. And that's awesome. So that's social media within the organization.
Yeah.
Right. Like good, positive influencers.
Yeah.
So the importance of having that connected to your external brand values. So what does that mean? So where are my external brand values? So again, that could be a company that externally, and we work with these folks all the time, because I think that's kind of where empowering positive brands also kind of jumped, you know, was created, was that there's a lot of great companies out there that are doing great things, but it's not aligned with the external brand values.
100%.
So externally they look one way and they sound one way, but internally they're a completely different organization, which is, and for the most part, it's usually one's good and one's bad.
And I think there's an issue too of consistency and credibility.
Yeah.
When you look at, does your internal culture match what you're saying out, you know, to everyone else? I was just thinking about, you know, my son had done a gap year before he went to law school, where he was working with a firm that specialized in labor law and unions and representing unions. And I remember him telling me that even when they shipped packages, they could only use carriers that had unions. They could not use a non-union carrier because it would have been hypocritical for them to represent labor and then utilize a company that did not represent or recognize the importance of unions and labor. So that's an example of an internal culture amending processes to really be reflective of what they truly believe and what they're advocating for.
Yep, that's a great example. I mean, that's in a nutshell, that's what we're talking about. It's like how your external actions and what the brand is doing or advocating or presenting does not match what you're all about.
Yeah.
So if you're about, you know, like let's say safety, and the message you're putting out there is not, then you're contradicting yourself.
Yeah.
And so therefore the line of communication is broken. And now it needs repairing, because then there's no really a dialogue to your audience that is your true audience. Because again, that's the idea behind purpose driven, is that your true audience will know when you're speaking to them.
And let's face it, we have another dimension that didn't exist maybe 20 years ago, where if you're claiming to be something and your internal culture and the employee staff experience contradicts that, they now have a way to get that message out there. I mean, I'm just thinking about some of the videos where, these people work at fast food restaurants and they start taking out their phones and filming, all kinds of unhygienic things and showing, rodents and things like that, and letting them know, yeah, you come and eat here. Let me show you what it looks like back here. So that's another element that I think organizations need to be very conscious of, is the fact that if you come across, we care about the safety of all of our employees as well as the patrons that, choose us as the restaurant of choice and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. But then, your employees,
got a whistleblower.
And whistleblowers now don't have to go to a lawyer.
No.
They don't have to go. They can go straight to social media, and the court of public opinion will condemn you.
And that's it. And that's the end. And that's all she wrote. I mean, I think, it also goes, which I know is your favorite topic, is diversity and inclusion, like how people get nuts on that, and how everybody claims to do that. Like that's it. What I do there, what I like about social media in this type of conversation is that it's calling people out. It's keeping people accountable for who they are.
Yeah, it surely is.
So if you're full of BS, then it's going to be exposed. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
So if that's you out there, you need to start working on your what do you call it? Your oh my God, what is it? The PR disaster?
Crisis management.
Crisis management.
Yes. Yeah, you definitely.
Because it's coming your way.
Yeah, and it's really, I mean, really, when you think about it, it really doesn't take that much for leadership to kind of look at what are we saying to the public, look at what we're promising on our website and all the different communications, and then take a look inside and say, are we really manifesting that in the way that we conduct business internally? Do we treat our staff and employees with the respect that they deserve? And, and it's sometimes not huge things, and, and really maybe take the time to look at what would bring value to the experience of your staff and employees. I think the funniest thing is when people, we had a great quarter this year. We're doing super well. There's going to be pizza in the community room at 3:00. And, that's our internal culture,
right.
Our focus on internal culture.
Yikes.
I love pizza just like everybody else. I think we all can agree pizza is great, but it's not, the building.
Not 10.
It's not, not the building block of internal culture.
Yeah. I mean, I think like, for us, the empowering positive brands mission, like that was a big deal. We knew that was going to be something that was going to hold us accountable for our actions. So that means that sometimes we're going to have to take a bullet and be like, well, you know what, this is not the way to do it, because of who we said we are and who we are. So, but I think for me, at least, at the end of the day, when that's aligned, I can go to sleep at night.
Yeah.
Not have to worry about anything, because I know that we're putting in the best foot forward. And that really, that kind of, I think it resonates again with like-minded people, humanly plausible, everything that we're doing, so.
Yeah, I think that, this was our way. I mean, did we have to have a podcast? No.
Nope.
I think it, once again, was consistent with us trying to connect with people who are making a positive impact. Once again, not only to give them a platform, but to help us broaden our perspective on different things and different ways in which, we can, be better at what we do.
Absolutely.
And be inspired to do things and empowered to do certain things. So absolutely. I think, bottom line is, and I think there might be a reason this came up again, don't sleep on internal culture. It's really, really important. I don't know if everyone necessarily thinks it's as important as it really is, but I think it can make a lot of difference to your bottom line, to the investment of the people who work for you, and to the way that people begin to trust you in terms of your consumers and people your prospects that want to engage with you.
So that's kind of, I guess, your closing thought.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's it.
Which, again, I agree with that. I think also you need to, assess your current communications, not just advertising, but just in general. If you have boots on the ground, people that are out there, whether it's salespeople, and they're calling folks, like, what are they saying? How are they?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Having conversations with different people. Really assess all the different points of communication, including your advertising, of course, and really ask yourself, is this really who we are?
Yeah.
And if you don't know who you are, then you need to call us, because then we can
help you.
That's where we need to. And again, we just kind of broke down our process. Is we need to understand that you're clear on your why and why you guys do what you do, and then how are you communicating that? And so if that's happening in a good fashion, then it's great. It's easier. We can move on to the next step. But all these steps have to be in place for us to do what we do. And that's a big part of being purpose-driven.
Exactly. I think those are your last. That's your final word.
Those are my last words. So I thank you guys. Glad to be back here with Rich.
No doubt.
Looking forward to the next one.
Yes, sir.
Take care.
Y'all be good.